everyone. I'm Katya Matucci from Human Dimensions. As you know, we usually have videos with different professionals to help you understand a little bit more about themselves, about how they work, and especially different services that are available to you in order to be able to take care of yourself in all your dimensions and be more good to yourself. I have with me Ze'ev Evgeni. How are you?
I'm good, Katya. How are you?
Good, very good. I didn't say your name right, did I? Evgeni.
Oh, that's not a
Right?
problem.
I'm
Evgeni.
sorry.
That's right.
Not good
It's
with
all
names.
good.
I'm so sorry. So how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a nice day, beautiful sunshine. Yeah, good energy day.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
have you with me. I'm very happy about what we're going to talk about today. Of course, we're going to talk about you, but we're going to talk about what you do also. And I know a lot of people have misconceptions about it, so I'm very excited about today. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, Katya. Thank you for having me. This is great. I'm happy to share about all this stuff. So yeah, I'm a hypnotherapist. I've been doing this stuff for almost 20 years at this point. Started out actually being in technology, IT. I've had more than 10 years in that career, and I was always interested in wellness and human potential and evolution of what we're actually capable of doing with our mind, with just living life without unnecessary suffering and limitation, and just people going about their daily life and they're having moments of strife and struggle that is unnecessary, just internal. So I was always very interested in, like, how do you go about that? How do you go about improving people's lives? And I studied all kinds of different things at first, just as a hobby, as a kind of something I was interested in peripherally for myself and for my friends and for my loved ones. I went through a few different things, systems, self-help books, and studied NLP. And from these things, I've discovered about hypnosis and hypnotherapy. I've also been to see a couple of hypnosis shows, which were very impressive, albeit not exactly in the line of what I was trying to accomplish, but it's like, wow. So, and I saw that the people were in a very special state of mind, right? So some people, they select out of the crowd. Like, so some people wouldn't be able to get into that state, but people who did get into that state, that have a very powerful internal reality fueled by their imagination and the guidance of the hypnotist. So I thought there's something really powerful here. And, moving on, I got some self-hypnosis MP3s, and they worked really well for me in the way of accelerated learning, memory enhancement, focus enhancement. I'm a little bit ADD-ish, so that was very helpful for me to actually have like some control, like on my focus. And at some point,
hold on, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah,
That's something that hypnotherapy can help with, ADD
yes.
and ADHD.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's important to combine it with lifestyle and nutritional support, just so that the brain is well supported, because the ADD brain is kind of very non-linear. So you want some nutrients that just help the brain function well and to be able to just kind of go as fast as it wants to go, but also relax more easily. So with that support in place, what hypnotherapy can do is just reduce this restlessness, this distraction, distractibility, allow the person to actually prioritize and focus in a way that's a lot more deliberate, a lot more conscious, create some consciousness around the stuff, and release the anxiety that comes with a lot of a lot of people's issues that they're having with this kind of attentional thing. So I mean, it helped me. I actually, because ADD is a bit of a superpower too. Right? You're capable of doing some things that the neurotypical people cannot, but then it's just kind of like trying to control this like fire hose, right? It's spray all over the place if you can't hold it. Right?
Oh yeah, that's a great image. Of course.
It's like holding this powerful thing. So yeah, trance states. We'll talk about that a little bit later, I imagine. But trance states, they navigate this spectrum between like focus, attention, and relaxation and kind of letting go, depending what we use the trance states for. We get into trance states every day, even. We get into a trance states, then we get into a flow state, really get into something, like merging with the activity you're doing. That's a bit of a trance.
Focus, let's say?
Yeah,
or when we say we're in the zone.
In the zone. So it's a form of a trance state. And in hypnotherapy, we use this deep, relaxed, but mostly staying conscious, with some exceptions when working with specific phenomena, the person actually can just go to sleep. But staying conscious, but very relaxed, to process a lot of things that are normally not available to the conscious mind, the conscious attention, the logical attention. But I guess how I got into this is just at some point this became really, really interesting. I started practicing on people around me and realized that the results can be incredible. And I've known some people who were, either in talk therapy or some other kind of therapies, and they were taking really long to achieve the results they wanted. And sometimes they'd be barely any, if no progress. And they'd they'd have a lot of mental reflections around their issues, but they wouldn't make any headway. It's like, I know all about my problems, but I'm not solving them. And that made no sense to me. That's just like, how you're taking all this time. And I was able to use some of the stuff that at the time I didn't even do professionally. I just learned the stuff as like a human. I was still working in IT. And I did some stuff with them, and it got really amazing results, especially for the level of skill I had at the time. Wow,
potential.
Yeah, that was just incredible. So at some point, I just decided to do this professionally. I decided to do this professionally. I took my courses, took my certification, left behind an office career that was kind of too much anyway. Screens, office.
Only rational. 8 of mine and a bar.
Very, very, very limited. And just went into holistic wellness, which started with hypnotherapy and then onwards to other modalities that I integrated in my work. And then here I am. This is really nice, really happy.
Amazing. And you're really passionate about it. It shows. I can
it's very rewarding. It's ongoing exploration. You help people improve their lives. You see people achieve results. You see somebody's life change for the better. You're a therapist, you understand this. Somebody's having a catharsis moment, and literally next week,
that moment, it's
right.
Candy. I was gonna say it's like candy. Not even. It's better than that. It's better than anything. It's that pure energy that you.
It's pretty incredible. It's making real difference in the world, right? It's not having to wait for you're building something, you're hoping it'll work. It's like literally right here, right now, with this human. That's a real difference. Somebody's life just became better.
Helping the human in front of you evolve. And be better. That's amazing. That's amazing. And can you help us understand a little bit, because I had a few questions about that, right? There's still a misconception about hypnosis where people think that you're that master guru, playing with people's mind, making them do anything that they won't remember and that they don't want to do. I'm sure that's not what you do on a daily basis, but can you help us understand really what is a hypnosis? What can it help with? And how it works, why you won't be able to control somebody if they don't want to be controlled, right?
Right. Well, the misconception is propagated by shows and film and media, because they like to mystify the stuff. Ultimately, in shows, it's a very specific application of hypnosis, like I've mentioned, and nobody really is going to do anything that they don't at least have some room and availability for doing. You can if the person actually on some level wants to do it, in hypnosis you can just give them permission to do it, right?
And then they will,
you'll take out the inhibitions, right? So that's why people can be really expressive on stage. They can dance, they can be like kids. There's some phenomena on stage that's really interesting. Like you can temporarily, not forever, but temporarily make somebody forget something. Like they'll take out a number and they'll say, you forgot the number 2. This will work
can't.
with like half the people or maybe more, because they pre-select part of the stage thing is they pre-select the audience. It won't work with everybody. So they'll run tests and then they'll get the most show suggestible people on stage, like expressive people. So if you lost the number 3 and then they count their fingers on one hand and it's like 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, you have 6 fingers, then they'll be very confused. Because you can make somebody temporarily forget a word. That's part of the subconscious mind mechanism of maintaining memory.
But
right?
you can't make them forget a family member or
well, you can make them forget anything forever. It'll come back, right? It's a temporary thing. You can help reorganize memories, and that's, I'm going to talk about therapy in a moment. You can work with memories. What really hypnosis is a set of methodologies, tools to access the spectrum of states between wakefulness and sleep, which allows us to access the subconscious and the unconscious mind, right? So here we are awake talking, and we're kind of coming from, you know, our logic and our conscious attention. And of course, intuition and spontaneous expression make their way into our conversation. They feed into our conversation, but we're essentially just here, very conscious, very deliberate. And then when we sleep, we're completely out. Now, when we dream, or when we're in deep meditation, or when we're relaxed and we have this kind of drifty, shadowy forms, right? It's the in-between states. And when you combine very methodological, like specific techniques of getting somebody into that state and guidance through a variety of processes, and what these processes are depending on the goal we're trying to achieve. It could be releasing a stuck emotion. It could be working with dependency and addiction. It could be rewiring behavior. It could be working with body phenomena like pain or deep tension, held tension, right? So within that state, the person is really amenable to change, because we're accessing layers that are not normally accessible, or certainly not directly accessible. Indirectly maybe, but no guarantees when we're just talking. Let's say we're doing like modalities like coaching, or we're doing talk therapy. They're not directly accessible. Whereas you get somebody into this kind of in-between state, and you maintain this kind of relaxed focus, but the conscious mind doesn't need to do anything. It doesn't need to control, predict, orient itself.
Like reducing the noise a bit.
Oh yeah, that's part of it. Getting them relaxed, getting them to this kind of soft focus, because the hypnotist or the hypnotherapist is guiding them. They don't need to think, oh, what comes next? What am I supposed to do? And a good hypnotherapist will also preemptively tell them they don't need to worry about that. And then
build the trust as well.
That's right. Well, of course.
And go to that
super important. But the nice thing too is that most of the time with this work, unlike the stage hypnosis, the person is actually conscious. They just don't need to do anything, but they're conscious. And if something happened that they really didn't like, they can just bubble up back. No problem. If they, you know, and they're not. You're not putting them to sleep. The only time I put somebody to sleep is if I'm working directly with body stuff like chronic pain. And even then, not necessarily, maybe I'll keep but the only reason I need the conscious mind is to actually interact with phenomena inside, to do iterative therapeutic processes. So if I'm just getting the body to reduce the pain, I might have them in the kind of transfer. They're almost
might not need the conscious mind.
No need. We're deconditioning pain in the body, but everything else, working with emotions, behavior, I want their conscious mind there. I need to know what's going on inside their mind, right? I want, and their conscious mind. So the metaphor for the hypnotherapy process is kind of like if you imagine a boat. Their unconscious mind is the engine or the oars. It's rowing. It's from there that bubbles up all the intuitive images or memories or whatever we need to work with. Their conscious mind is just like at the front of the boat, looking like, where are we? What's going on? Right? And I'm at the rudder. I'm just navigating. Right? And I'm navigating expertly into where we need to go. And the unconscious mind is this multi-directional, works in parallel, everything that happens in the background outside of your conscious awareness, that maintains memories, manages emotions, is in charge of automatic reflexive behavior, you know, patterns of behavior, person's conditioning. And we can work with all that in a variety of techniques.
Just to give an example, I think some people know, but many people don't know that it's not just what you see or what you focus on that your brain registered. It registers everything, even the things right there in your angle, even the things that you don't necessarily think you see or that you hear, everything is stored into the brain anyways. So it's kind of accessing that huge library of all the things that were registered somewhere. Right?
That's right. Like we actually perceive way more. Even people under anesthesia sometimes will remember stuff said, like a general anesthesia, that they're supposed to be out completely. And sometimes they may not consciously remember, but actually with an anesthesiologist, I guess, anesthesiologists, they'll notice or surgeons, like, don't talk about problems of the patient in front of the patient. Even in the general anesthesia, like take the whatever person, nurse aside to talk to them about it, because they'll hear it and their stress level will rise. They're under general anesthesia. You say, okay, he's not doing well, and their heart rate rises, and there's something.
The body hears it, the body feels it, and reacts accordingly, even though your conscious mind is not there. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So people register things, and then in the state, like actually in REM sleep, people's mind will sort through the stuff and integrate it in ways that also interwoven with the person's conditioning, like we never know quite how. Whereas in hypnosis, we can unravel this stuff. In hypnotherapy, we can unravel it. We can see how things have encoded. And we can release painful imprints. We can realign things that are out of balance. We can do a lot of things.
Rewire connections that were made that are not useful anymore, or that are.
That's right. Redirect negative behaviors. Exactly. So we have access to all this stuff in a state of trance. And the thing about control, what you asked, like it's really a co-navigation in therapy, right? It's a co-navigation. I'm helping the mind navigate its own internal world. I'm like this expert librarian. I just get in there, or I can how to optimize, like take out this or
knowing
bring this to awareness.
To get, sure, which reading you need to go get,
Right. and then a variety of transformation processes that you can do once you've retrieved what you need to retrieve. Also, another thing with stage hypnosis is it utilizes suggestion, that they'll drop people into a trance, they'll give them suggestion, they'll preempt sort of like a scene, they'll predefine it. Oh, now you're an orchestra musician, or now you're this, and they'll run it, and then the person will play it. So it's like entertainment's virtual reality. Whereas in my work, I only use suggestion partially towards the end, just to integrate the positive changes. Whereas in the process of the work, it's very iterative. It's literally like working with somebody, even consciously, except they're in the trance state, and you can interact with their unconscious mind, which means you use a little bit of a different languaging and different navigation, because it's multi-directional.
So it's not just really that way of doing it. It's really more the therapy that comes first, and then you just work differently with different parts of the brain. But it's really like a therapy. You're working with the person. You're not working alone, controlling everything, right?
That's right. There is the control is actually more towards the wholeness of the person. I would say they're even more in control than when they're just in the conscious mind, because there is more access to everything that's inside them.
Everything together.
It's giving possibility to all of them to kind of come to bear and get integrated, as opposed to somebody might think they're really in control, but they're running from this narrow place, that who they think they are, and their conditioning. And because of all the automatic processes in the background, they have no idea impacting them. They're actually not in control. That's where sometimes people do stuff how come I'm doing it? Like they don't want to be doing. They reflect back, what happened? Like what was I doing, So it's actually a much deeper.
And do you have any examples that you would see more regularly? Let's say you have a lot of people coming for you for help with, I don't know, addictions or anxiety or bad behaviors or repeating behaviors that they have. What's more common in your practice?
Well, everything you mentioned is pretty common. I find that people sort of come in waves. Like it's actually kind of funny how this happens. It's people will come with similar issues
all
in like a wave, and then
around
around the same time. it's funny. Yeah, like sometimes
Themes, there are themes and waves of people
maybe
coming.
something happening collectively, you know, people
Yeah.
get affected. Recently, I had quite a few anxiety clients, just
Yeah.
people having anxiety about a variety of contexts in life. Yeah, anxiety is really amenable to hypnosis, to
Okay.
hypnotherapy, because you can access this, often you can access the source of the anxiety, which sometimes comes from some
Fear.
childhood experiences.
Mhm.
Yeah, like integrated fear. The imprints are often kind of like a pearl. You have this grain of sand and there's layers around it, layers,
Okay.
you know, and you lost the original grain of sand. You don't know where it is. And it's just this reaction. Whereas using trance, you can peel back
The
the
layers.
layers
Mhm.
and just kind of go through this all the way back to when the imprint was new. And if you release it, then you provide that whatever, like this child is a 2-year-old, for example, if that's where the imprint is, with the support and resources, and that's stored, everything's stored in the memory.
Yeah.
So you bring the support and resources, and all the resources could be just like resource state, calmness, feeling safe. You can just shift the perspective around the memory. So you reprocess the memory so that inner child at the time feels safe. The effect reverberates through all the layers that came afterwards.
Wow.
Literally just like ripples, like
Rewiring. You're just
that's
retelling
right.
the story in a different way, or you're just
Yeah.
rewriting the story to make it
Well,
more
the
manageable.
memories, yeah, the memories, the facts of the memory tend to stay the same, but there's no more emotional charge. It's
Mm.
just like looking back, it's like neutral, or it might even be positive. Sometimes people like with a place where there was fear in the memory, it's just like humor, or even gratitude, or you know, something good, or even just neutral, like it doesn't matter. It's insignificant. And so the present moment manifestations of their anxiety change also, oftentimes completely clear, or it's just so much weaker, it's just so much easier to, like you said, manage.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's anxiety. Addictions are more multi-level in the sense that you usually have emotions that work in the addiction, you have
Yeah.
the cravings, and you have the behaviors around the addiction,
Yeah.
which I like to address in a structural way, not just get them into a deep trance and give them suggestion you're no longer addicted. This is like some hypnotists do that, and sometimes it even works. But
Okay.
it's a toss up. Well, sometimes all people need is really just this really strong, like they're already motivated. They just need their subconscious mind to get on board with the conscious
They
mind.
need a
Like,
little
yes,
push to get
we're
everything
done. Like a full system done, like full body done. I'm done.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
and after that, like they got it. But and that's actually sometimes, you know, like I have kind of a mixed relationship with stage hypnotists. I've been the safety guy in some stage hypnosis shows,
Okay.
where sometimes if somebody kind of freaks out on stage, or they have like a strange reaction, they'll send them to me backstage so I can calm them down. And right, so I was there, you know, and so to spend like 15-20 minutes with somebody from stage, because sometimes people will respond like aberrant responses to skits. You know, you'll get them to do a skit and they'll trigger a reaction and they'll go into like a weird mode. It happens sometimes. So usually what stage hypnotists will do, if they don't have somebody like me, they'll just try to relax them and send them back. But I actually can turn that experience into a release, like whatever it brought back something traumatic, we can do a quick release on that, so they'll be better off for it, not just hopefully relax and not freak out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So stage hypnotists, they can be crude and not keep in mind, not educated enough on like the finer aspects of the internal ecology of the human being, and that's where I'm kind of critical about this stuff. But also they do good work in both kind of promoting the fact that this stuff exists, and
It is
oftentimes
possible.
it's possible that it's just something people get really wowed about,
Yeah.
like, and there's nothing mystical about it. It's just a stage. And another thing is they will often give positive suggestions in the end of the show to their participants and to the audience. If they're hypnotizing the audience, even without people going up on stage, sometimes they'll do that, and they'll give positive suggestions, like general suggestions, like things in your life will improve. You will no longer, you know, be subject to behaviors you don't, you know. And sometimes like 10, 25, maybe ish% of people, just that will actually give them this boost, all the stuff in them that was already ripe for positive change, but wasn't happening because their critical mind was just not quite.
It wasn't the way.
Yeah, the conditioning was just the last really barrier. Like everything and the rest is ready. So just that suggestion given to the unconscious mind in a state of trance will get somebody to, okay, like, and sometimes just even that does
It
a lot.
opens to the possibility that there's
Yeah,
something else, that it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
locked.
And another in events, I used to do this kind of quick like popcorn hypnosis, like literally like 10-20 minutes trance. And I would usually get somebody into a deep trance. I'll ask them before, like, where is your boo-boo? Like, where do you have like an emotional blockage, or do you have like, what would you like? And I just give them a really, really, really quick process and quick positive suggestion. Just drop them deep, do that quick thing, emerge them at events, conferences and stuff. And a lot of people respond really well to that. So that's quick. But with addictions, deep dependencies,
Deeper.
you actually, you need to discover, like, I'll take my notepad and I'll ask the one first session is just like maybe an hour plus is just exploration. What are your triggers? What are the contexts around which you're craving? Where is the craving in the body? What are the people involved in your, patterns? And what's the emotional history?
Better.
Gotta map it. Gotta map it. So that's thorough work. So if just with suggestion, you still have a good chance. I mean, if just with deep trance and suggestion, you have like 20% chance of actually getting at least to a good place from which you can potentially not use all that much like suffering and willpower to become
manage
free.
your craving better, or
that's all
at least.
Like give a good boost, give a good foundation. So that's already really great. But I can get like 85+% success with this thorough work, where we will actually release the emotions involved in the dependency. We will actually one by one rewire the habits, rewire the triggers. So every time you do X, instead of like smoking or doing whatever, there's actually going to be something else you're going to be drawn to do, and you can really get the unconscious mind on board with that. And it's iterative work. It's like at first I'll go after the big pieces, the emotional, like that empty feeling from which they crave, the actual craving itself, and get them to feel more whole, more supported. So maybe from there we don't even need to do the precision work, but if they still have the behaviors, then I'll go after that. And it'll take as long as it'll take, but that's the deeper work. That's the more structural work.
And that's the key. It will take as long as it will take, because if you want to do a thorough work and make sure that you looped it together and that it actually works for the client, there's the work to do properly, to map everything, to be able to recreate connections. And so yes, it's not something that, people imagine that because it's hypnosis, because it's subconscious, that it's just one click and it's done and thank you.
It's
teamwork, as you said.
If you're lucky, it can be like that sometimes. If you're lucky, it's but that's really select cases. It's like if everything else is ready and all you need is just that little push, just getting the subconscious mind on board. But no, I go after the deeper stuff, and but some stuff actually is really easy, surprisingly easy. For example, phobias.
Really?
Oftentimes one session. Really? 2 maybe, because it's a tightly wound neural response. Very particular stimulus, say a mouse, crazy fear, panic, right? So it's actually harder. Maybe it's counterintuitive, but it's actually more difficult to deal with anxiety or fear that's kind of spread out through life, multiple contexts, because it's kind of like this dense fog around it. And this is just like a lightning response. It's like the stimulus, intense fear. So to decondition that is not that hard. 1 or 2 sessions. Phobias are surprisingly easy, and people think, oh wow, phobias, because it's so intense. But actually, it's just one little pathway. It doesn't take that long to disrupt one little pathway. And that's where hypnosis really excels, actually, like with phobias and stuff that's really sharp, fast, where people have a hard time getting that gap between the stimulus and the reaction. That's where a lot of the stuff. And I mean, I coach around it too, because once you got that gap, it's like, wow, well, what else in my life can I apply it to? And so I'll coach, right? Like, oh, wow, I can, interesting.
World of opportunities.
So I coach people to create the gaps, and a lot of it is like, I don't only use hypnosis or hypnotherapy. I teach people about mindfulness, awareness, conscious, like just being conscious around behavior, so that more and more they can actually, and in hypnosis, the nice thing also is that they become more aware of their internal life. The conscious mind gets to learn how their unconscious mind functions throughout the sessions that we do. So in the same time we're releasing things or we're working on things, they're like, oh wow,
They're
so when
learning.
me emotions function this way, or my internal parts, they get organized this
Yeah.
way, and they get to learn like how things got imprinted, and they're like, ah, okay, so they get to know themselves on a very deep level that normally they wouldn't have, even, you know, even if they reflected a lot, like, wow, this is my internal world. And
Yeah.
so that kind of membrane between conscious and unconscious mind becomes a lot more malleable. They can notice the
Yes.
impulses inside themselves and be more mindful around them, and actually
The
get more
link
control
between,
in life.
yeah, and the link
Yeah,
between the two is easier also. It's
yeah,
of course, if you
yeah.
don't know there's a pathway there, you're never going to take it, right? You don't even know it's
That's
there. But
right.
once you
A lot of
learn,
people are very separated. Like they're very,
mhm,
you know, here is my like little idea about myself and what how I'm doing, you know,
that's it.
and all this intuitive and body stuff and subconscious stuff. It's kind of like uh,
Hmm.
shoved away, or it's just kind of living its own life. And
Yeah,
the person
it's in a
trying to
separate
like,
world, and
yeah,
that world
exactly.
doesn't exist. The
Yeah,
less
well,
we see
just
it, the less it exists. We don't want to deal with it.
right. But the more people suppress it, of course, the more it comes the very inopportune
And the
moment.
body's going to tell you anyways. If it doesn't come
Yeah,
to mind, it's your own physical body that's going to tell you
yeah,
that something's
yeah.
there that needs to be
Tensions,
addressed.
maladies. Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah,
sure. And they're going to
yeah.
come see you for pain. Ah, so it's the same thing.
And sometimes you start, you like when I work with chronic pain, it's like it's usually like fibromyalgia or some kind of, you
Yeah.
know, that pain. But let's say they come to me with pain that's psychosomatic, it just got created around the life event. Sometimes you live the pain, and underneath it, there's a sea of repressed emotion. It's like, oh wow, I was numbing that out. Anger, fear, sadness, deeply suppressed.
Yeah.
You suppress sadness for long enough, you're going to become depressed, right? Like this saps your energy. Suppression takes a lot of energy. And that energy is not available to people in every day, you know? So once you actually release a bunch of the stuff, open up these channels, you start bursting with energy. You have
Yeah.
energy for all these things.
And I'm
Yeah.
really happy you're talking about that, because if only one person that's listening right now that is going to understand that there's something there to work with that didn't
Mm-hmm.
know, or that is just going to be more conscious that there is more than just a
Yeah.
rational thought.
Yeah.
If just that, I'm very happy. We've done our job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So
know?
even just self-exploration. I mean, people can
Yeah.
go download like for free or listen on YouTube like self-hypnosis or guided meditation stuff and just explore around that a little bit. I'll give a quick technique that somebody can just create some gaps and notice their background their background cognition a little bit more. It's a
Uh-huh.
super easy quick technique. So just taking some moments throughout the day, it can be just like for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, to just like say one thing finished, another thing hasn't started yet. They're really taking this deep break and just staring into space with this peripheral attention without singling out any particular object, which gets you into this expanded sense of awareness. So the conscious mind is very kind of focused, right? Like we're focusing, like I'm focusing on the screen right now here with you, or I can focus on something I'm doing. Whereas you're actually kind of staring into space and taking in the entire periphery and feeling your body sensations as well, and feeling the sound around you in a 360-degree fashion. And if the attention drifts, you can just bring the attention back to the spacious thing and relax there and maintain that for, yeah, just like half a minute, 3 minutes, and notice. So in the absence of attempting to focus on something specific or do something specific, just what's going on in the background. Just notice what's going on in the background. You're not trying to do anything. That's a very natural, by the way, natural, present, conscious, eyes open trance state. You can get into this trance state very easily. You can do it multiple times a day. It kind of presses the reset button on a lot of the like kind of nervous energy that might be rattling around in the mind and the
Love
nervous
that.
system. Just it's a natural relaxation, and you don't have to put effort on the relaxation, because if you're trying to relax your body, it's like, oh, relax this muscle or
Yeah.
relax this muscle.
Yeah.
Now I relax this. Whereas this, you just literally you're staring into space, and
It's
the
like
point is
blurring your vision, right? Like when you stare, but you don't stare at the same time, you don't focus on something.
your vision, or you get good at this stuff, there is no blurriness. Like I'm watching the screen right now, and I'm taking in the sides of this room. It's helpful if somebody's not used to it to just kind of like put the hands out like wider than you can see on
Yeah.
screen and wiggle their fingers, because you'll notice movement. You actually notice movement of both fingers, and keep that expanded awareness. When you get good at this, like maybe it's helpful to imagine that instead of looking from here, like most people are kind of perceiving from here, you're kind of looking from the back of the head, like a satellite dish, like your awareness is literally going from the back of the head, right? And you're taking in this wide beam like in
Yeah.
attention, and everything is taken in as one, right? So your point of attention, you're not like jumping between this, that, or the other. So it might be blurry at first, but actually it can be quite sharp, and it's a different way of perceiving. You literally feel like you feel different inside.
Yeah.
It engages a different place in your brain, and
Yeah.
it can actually be quite focused, but it's very relaxed, and it's very difficult in that place to do any kind of sequential thinking, which you don't need to. That's the point. It silences that inner dialogue.
Calms it
It's
down. Yeah.
just big wide beam attention, 360-degree sound, feeling your breathing, feeling like the basic sensations of the body, and just hanging out with that for longer, like then the restless mind will try to jump to something. No, not right now, not right now. Like say the not right now a few times to the restless mind, what I'm doing next.
Yeah.
And actually the perfect time to do this is, let's say you're waiting for something, you're in a store lineup, or you're waiting at the elevator.
At the grocery store, you're in a lineup, you don't have anything.
You know, like you're bored anyway. What else you have to do? Or even you're walking on the way to somewhere, and there is nothing you need to think about for the getting there, right? You can take in both sides of the street. As long as it's not a bumpy street, you need to look underneath your feet, you know, so stay safe. But just like take in, you know, or you've parked your car and your appointment is in 10 minutes and you're just chilling in the car, just take in the periphery. You're waiting for anything.
People maybe not driving on the highway, right?
You don't want to do this while driving. They don't drift off. At a longer red light, maybe, for just until there's. Yeah. That's right. Definitely don't while driving or operating machinery. Don't do it. You need your tunnel focus. But when you're just in between things, maybe you've just arrived, you're a little tired before you start. You arrived home or arrived anywhere before you start your next thing. You're not in a rush to do it. That could be a really good relaxation break, and it shows you the state that happens between the active conscious engagement, which for most people is not even like, what is that even? Unless you're about to fall asleep and you're drifting already, or you're waking up in the morning, you're half awake. That's the only 2 times a day people get anywhere close to the stuff, and it's not conscious, right? It's just kind of there, like when you still a residue of dreams in the morning, and then when you're drifting off to bed. So creating that in the day multiple times, and really it's almost like a conscious nap for the conscious mind, but you're present. The cool part is you're present and alert, actually completely there, learning what it means to actually be present and alert, and no mental movement.
Wow.
No movement. Just
I'm gonna start doing that.
Nice stillness place.
Every day, all day.
Full perception. Oh, just few times a day is perfect. You will give your mind really a nice like example of a different state to be. And people can begin to do that, and that can, by the way, already be a really good interruption of anxiety pattern, nervous energy. When people take nervous energy from one activity to another, you know, like one thing finished, and like there is no need to, let's say, had a stressful meeting, or was it a rush somewhere running late, or anything. It happened, the conversation, you know, and they're like, and they can't get rid of it all day.
And it doesn't have to be long, as you said. It can be half a minute, 30 seconds. It can't be 5 minutes, you know.
Just gaps, those gaps, right? Creating gaps in between the thought process and conscious engagement. Next thing, what do I do now? Operational, right? Just so it's easy way to you could say even self-hypnotize, even though it's not hypnosis like for a specific purpose. It's just creating a state of conscious trance in the middle of the day to give the nervous system room to breathe and to teach the brain a new way. Like it's a new way of perceiving, a new way of being.
I like that. Teaching the brain to breathe, you know?
Because
breathing is a rhythm, in and out.
That's right.
It's not just in all
That's
the time,
right.
You know?
So like engagement, space. Spaciousness. Okay, engage, and then you can actually engage in a much more high quality way. Absolutely. Right? You can actually be present where you are, as opposed to restless energy, right? I
see the time flying by. We're having
right,
and we're gonna have to do this again for sure.
We can talk about some specific things in therapy or wellness or evolution.
I'm not worried about it. But lastly, just to finish quickly, is there any particular moment that makes you go, I'm doing the right job, I love my job? what makes you more thrilled about what you do? What's that specific moment?
Well, there's maybe two. I'm gonna say two.
Yeah.
One is the moment of release. It's really when just the right thing happens, whether it's like a release of stuck emotion, or maybe an integration of an internal conflict, or just like a moment of like some really deep shift. You could totally tell you just did whatever process and the person aligned just the right way, and you see like their face soften. You see oftentimes there's like their skin flushes, they relax. Sometimes there is some kind of an emotional expression. They might like happily weep or something. And you can tell that something really deep changed inside them. Just this wow, like integrated. And at that point, you know that their life has changed. That's it. Like they've really, whatever it is that you're working with, like that has changed for them. And possibly a lot of other things changed that were connected to it, because not one thing exists in isolation. So I love that. That's just, you know, like you're there with them, you feel it. You're a therapist, I'm sure you know.
Yeah, you feel it with them.
Yeah, incredible, incredible. That's just like, wow, right? You feel the expansion. You feel like here was this knot of pain and suffering. It's just like untied and got
feel
released.
The space that's being created.
Exactly. So like wow moments. And another one that I really like is when they really, because I don't only do therapy, I teach also. I teach wellness, I teach healing, like mostly to people who just do it with themselves and their loved ones, is the moment where they really got something. Just really that integration moment, like your student just gets it, especially when they're doing like a practice, but even when like something connects, and it could be a client too, because I educate my clients about, you know, it's important that they understand what's going on with them, and like something connects and there's this aha. It's like right, and there's this insight moment, and it's like great. That's another one where I kind of get all like tingly. I'm like, wow, nice, got it. Yes, that person really received that what they need for them. You know, with coaching clients. So I was teaching a healing workshop at a festival just in September, and I had this cute little couple working on each other, doing the drill, and I really saw the guy was working, and he never did it before. Like I was teaching hands-on healing, he never did it before, and and he's just doing it, and he's doing it perfectly, and I see it. He's not sure at some moment. And I just come in and I just give him a little tidbit, and I totally see him getting it in the moment. He just shifted how he was doing it, just with his sensitivity and intuition, and he totally got it. And I saw like there was a crinkle, and he's like, he was doing it pretty well. And then just readjustment, just like, there it is. There is that resonance moment. Got it. Or as a teacher, like I live for this stuff. This is wonderful. That's just wow, right?
The impact you have on people, the positive impact you have on their evolution and their well-being. That's
it's really powerful. It just keeps me going. I mean, you know, it's just amazing what's actually possible. Keeps me also wanting to learn more and more. I keep adding to my arsenal, right? I'm always interested in anything that can kind of plug in and use in the work for sure.
Well, it was amazing to have you. Thank you so much for your time, Ze'ev. It was a pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great. I always love talking to you, Katya. We always have these nice conversations.
We'll do it again for sure. I can't say this. I mean, we have to do it again. There's so many things we need to talk about. It's going to be a pleasure having you again for sure. And I hope everybody enjoyed. And if ever you want to reach Ze'ev for issues or things you want to work with him, I'll leave the links under the video for sure. You can reach him on Facebook and on LinkedIn, right?
Oh yeah, well, I have right now it's a links page. I may evolve it to like a proper website. It's themind.ca, themind, one word, .ca. So that's my domain, and currently it links to there is my LinkedIn, my Facebook. There is direct ways to reach me on messengers and like ways to start working with me on there. Themind.ca.
So
Facebook's good. Look me up on Facebook. There is a bunch of stuff about how I work on Facebook you can read.
What an amazing person you are. Expanded.
Well, so are you, Katya. Doing the good work.
All right. So thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. And see you next time.